For years, I've been lucky enough to travel the world, but I always return to Cornwall. This county is famous for rugged coastlines and sweeping beaches.
This is cool.
But Cornwall has so much more to offer.
These mines get almost a mile out to sea. This is a wonder of the world.
Now I want to show you what this place means to me.
They're like sweeties.
From its rich culture
I love these here.
to its ancient history.
Hello?
I talk to those who love this place.
This is where I feel at home.
And as you'd expect, I celebrate great Cornish food.
We take this in, they're more than happy.
Along the way, I hope to inspire you with my own dishes.
A sensational pud.
What I discover is that Cornwall is different to anywhere else in the world.
And it's that difference that I want to try and explain and to tell you what Cornwall means to me.
Cornwall is a county full of myths and folklore. For centuries, tales of mermaids, giants and piskies have fed our imagination. But this corner of North Cornwall is home to England's greatest legend, King Arthur. It is written that he was born 1,500 years ago during the Dark Ages on this rocky outcrop on the north coast called Tintagel. When King Arthur was born, Tintagel was a large settlement in Britain and an important trading post. Its Cornish name Trevenna means village on a mountain, and it was home to about 500 people.
So this was quite a major building, this bit.
Yeah, there was a great hall over there, and then you came across that there was more land there before before it basically fell into the sea, and then they built the bridge.
I've met Professor Marion Gibson in the ruins of the 13th century castle that was built on the site of the old fort.
Like a lot of Cornish coastal settlements, this was a port, and goods came in from the Mediterranean and from as far away as Africa.
The goods were coming in, what was going out then?
Tin and Cornish exports, fish and things like that would have been shipped out, and in return you'd have got things like Mediterranean oil and wine.
I just love the idea that they found things like Turkish pottery, Mediterranean glass up there, and they were using that in like 500–600 AD.
We think it's so modern, don't we? We think, you know, the global civilization that we live in is so modern. These people are importing luxuries from all over the world.
So extraordinary. Honestly, to me, the whole concept of this part of the UK being so important and so relatively prosperous so long ago just blows my mind, Marion, to be honest.
It's great, isn't it?
Tintagel's most famous character is, of course, King Arthur. And though he didn't live at Tintagel, he was only born here, it's hard not to connect this place to the best-known part of his legend. That is the love triangle between him, his wife, Guinevere, and her lover, Sir Lancelot.
It's a great story, this story of Arthur. You know, it's a story of a man who becomes king and is a good king and conquers all his enemies and lives in this wonderful place, but his life goes wrong. You know, his wife falls in love with somebody else, indeed his best friend, who he also loves. So the whole thing is a story about love, really.
Lancelot.
Yeah, exactly. It's about Arthur and Lancelot and Guinevere and this love triangle. It's one of those universal archetypal stories that people love to retell.
And you set it in a setting like this, and then you've got Dosmary Pool on Bodmin Moor with Excalibur coming out of the water and thrown back in the end. I've been to Dosmary Pool. I swear I could imagine the hand with Excalibur coming up.
You saw an arm in the water.
Yeah. But that's so right, isn't it? It's really about how it affects us all.
It It is, and it's about the idea the landscape is full of these wonderful stories and wonderful creatures, you know, mermaids and dragons and witches, and that it's a live landscape, and that living in it today, we can still feel those stories.
And that's where you think the stories end. But no, Tintagel features in yet another legend. Once again, it's the tale of a love triangle, but this time between King Mark of Cornwall and his wife-to-be Isolde, who is having an affair with a knight of the Round Table called Tristan. This story inspired Richard Wagner to write one of his best-loved operas, Tristan and Isolde.
I'm no buff about opera, but I love Wagner. And I love Wagner for the simple reason that he covers really, really fundamental things about being human. And the big issue that he's dealing with here is the primal, unexplainable nature of love. You've got Tristan, the nephew of King Mark, sent over to Ireland to ask Isolde to come back and marry Mark. Tristan goes to Ireland, slays a dragon, of course, just a matter of course then, and picks up Isolde and comes back. And during the course of that voyage, maybe love potions are involved, who knows? But he falls in love with Isolde, and Isolde falls in love with him. So you've got this terrible situation. And standing here with this immense backdrop, I just feel the music of Wagner in the final part of that opera and the resolution the music gives you when you listen to it, you sort of understand how much love means to all of us. I think that's why people come to places like this in Cornwall, because it opens their mind, it opens their spirits.
Wherever you travel in Cornwall, you're reminded of its industrial past, especially here in the area of Camborne and Redruth, which in its day was the richest mining area in the world. This photograph from about 1890 shows just how different this landscape was. Once the centre of the Cornish mining industry, for a while it boasted another world first. The deepest mine at Dulcoath, where men hacked at the rock over half a mile below the surface, extracting tin and copper. Holman's was the company which supplied the miners with all their equipment. In its heyday, their machinery was the best in the world. Based in the centre of Camborne, it employed most of the town, until Cornish mining, outpriced by foreign competition, ceased to exist.
I actually really like Camborne, but sadly it's fallen on hard times owing to the closures of all the mines and all the associated industries to do with mining. But the reason I like it so much is it's very substantial, and you can still see it in the buildings. They're really, really rugged, well built, and there's a lovely feel about the place because the architecture is so splendid, particularly the Wesleyan chapels. The reason I'm standing here, though, is that behind me is the statue of Richard Trevithick, who invented the world's first steam-powered transport. In his hands is a little model of the Puffing Devil, the metal monster it was also called. And he took it on a legendary trip on Christmas Eve 1801 up Camborne Hill, which is just over there. And the reason we all love it so much is possibly the most famous song in Cornwall, is going up Camborne Hill, coming down, which the first verse of which runs, going up Camborne Hill, coming down, going up Camborne Hill, coming down. The horses stood still, the wheels turned around, going up Camborne Hill, coming down. Going up Camborne Hill, coming down. And we pushed.
Every year, Camborne celebrates this marvel of engineering with a replica of the Puffing Devil.
And we pushed the damper in, and we pulled the damper out, and the smoke went up the chimney just the same.
Trevithick has been credited as an early pioneer of the railway steam locomotive. Despite his engineering achievements, he died alone and penniless.
It's sort of funny, really, with so many cars going by. I wonder what Richard Trevithick would have made of it. After all, he wanted to get rid of the horse and cart, and indeed he did with the Puffing Devil. But look where it's come now.
Trevithick was born into a strong Methodist family. This new religion, a revival movement in the Church of England, was led by the cleric John Wesley and became extremely popular in Cornwall. Camborne has 5 Methodist chapels. This one is perhaps the most striking and next door to what was Holman's. I'm here to meet 2 Methodists, Don Gardner and Marie Platt.
I love this chapel. Who is it built for and what sort of people would come here?
It was built in 1839 and it's basically the Holman's Church, the workers' church, because Holman's is just up the road. And they, if you worked in Holman's, you came here, and if you wanted to be in a posh job in a solicitor's office or whatever, you went to Wesley.
Right. Just tell me this, what Holman's is obviously the big
engineering company.
Are they still in existence?
No, unfortunately, no. And when Holman's died, Camborne died.
Right.
I worked there for 25 years.
Did you?
Yeah.
Because it was like the pride of Camborne, wasn't it?
Yes,
And it was exported all over the world, the equipment.
Remembering there was 3,200 employees in the factory next door. I got made redundant when the last 800 went. And it really killed the town because they were one of the highest paying employers for the area.
So just tell me why Methodism caught on so much in Cornwall.
Well, because I think John Wesley came and he brought a love and ministry with him. Although, unfortunately, he got stoned sometimes because people were frightened of him and what he was bringing. But because of his influence, many of the landowners looked after their employees really well. Like the farmers would kill a cow and it would be shared out amongst their farm workers.
John Wesley appealed to the working class because he held his services in the open air. You know, he preached on street corners and he got down to where they were. They were miners working 7 days a week, filthy, dirty, you know, not earning a tremendous amount. They were looking for something, and I think they appreciated John Wesley's care and love for them and thought, well, they're worth something, and made people turn to thinking, well, perhaps Methodism is the grassroots of religion.
My great-grandfather was a Methodist minister, did some time in Camelford as a minister, so it was sort of Cornwall's answer to the Church of England, I guess.
Because we were poor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we still are.
Obviously, you've been incredibly important in supplying meals for people. Just tell me a bit about that, then.
Yeah, we started the food bank 11 years ago. We are averaging 14,000 meals a month. The child poverty in schools is 10% above the national average. One area in Camborne, Poole and Redruth has the highest per capita rate in England for suicides in men. That's the problem, the mental health problem we're dealing with day in, day out. We rely on the community to provide the food and the money to buy the food.
And how is the community responding?
Oh, fantastic. It's all based on the Methodist Church of loving the community.
Somebody once said, when you're at the top of Trelawarren Street and you look down here, it's God at the end of the street.
Do you think it's something to do with you too? Because you're very nice.
Sometimes, aren't we, Donovan?
Sometimes.
Yeah, we're okay.
Today, Methodist numbers have dwindled, but during the time of John Wesley, it was the most popular religion in the county. Fishermen, miners and farmers, people who risked their lives or worked the land, found great comfort in Wesley's sermons, which he would hold outdoors at places like Gwenet Pit, attracting crowds of up to 20,000. Over the years, Methodists continued to get together to celebrate their faith at festivals or on feast days, where the star of the show was a special yellow cake, which has since become an exotic Cornish delight, the saffron bun.
So, saffron buns. I've got some warm milk and now the saffron. And I'm not being at all abstemious with the saffron. And I have to say that this amount of saffron would cost you about £4. But it's absolutely essential if you want a proper tasting saffron bun to use plenty of saffron. I'm just trying to break it up a little bit. Then into my milk, a bit of a stir. I need to leave that for about 15 minutes, but before that, I'm just going to add some nice extra ingredients into my warm milk. First, some butter, and then some clotted cream. Very important in a Cornish saffron bun, clotted cream. Stir, stir, stir. Thinking about saffron, it is part of our sort of Cornish history, and in fact, it's quite clear that when Cornish miners went off to such places as Mexico and Australia, they not only took pasties, they took saffron cake and saffron buns too. Right, we'll just set that aside. And now I'm going to just sift some flour in to start making my saffron bun dough.
The dough is simple and is made from 500 grams of plain flour, with 7 grams of yeast, 50 grams of caster sugar, and a teaspoon of salt.
Well, I think we've got a nice infusion happening here now.
After 15 minutes, your milk infusion will be ready. Make a small well in the flour and slowly pour in the mixture.
Stir that all around together.
Then turn out and start kneading.
There we go. I'm not Methodist, I'm Church of England, and I'm not particularly religious, but I think it's a sort of shame in some ways that religion isn't still quite a part of people's daily life. To me, it's not so much believing in God, it's just believing in a way of thought that everybody buys into. We all need a few boundaries, I think. That's looking pretty good. So, needless to say, I forgot the raisins and the peel. People find it really great when I do something particularly stupid like this. It's sort of, in some ways, it makes me, just not a very good cook. It doesn't matter because it'll all get amalgamated, but I should have actually thought of putting all my raisins in first. I suppose I could argue that I'm not a baker, I'm a chef. Now I need to leave that to prove for about an hour. So in the time-honoured tradition of filming on TV, I prepared one earlier, just to save time. There we go.
After the first rise is complete, knock back the dough. This bursts the bigger air bubbles, forcing them to become smaller, so giving you a smoother texture.
And roll it into a nice log.
This amount of dough will give you enough for 10 buns. Try not to overwork the dough. Treat it lightly, as you don't want to lose the trapped air. Cover the buns and allow to prove. Rise again for 30 minutes. When ready, pop into a hot oven, 200 degrees Celsius will do it, for about 20 minutes, or until the buns have an attractive browned crust. Remove and glaze with a mixture of 1 part sugar to 2 parts water. Then allow to cool before serving with lashings of clotted cream.
Well, this is the bit I've been waiting for. The taste of a Cornish saffron bun. Oh, well, of course it's lovely. You can take all your Milanese risottos, you can take all your paellas, whatever. I think a saffron bun is probably the best way of eating saffron. But how do you describe the flavour? Would you say it was floral, it was fragrant? Some people say it's a bit bitter. Some people say it's a bit medicinal. Others say it's earthy. It's almost like perfume in a way. It's so complex that it's almost impossible to describe how it tastes. It's more about how you feel when you eat it and when you smell it. And then you feel cosy, you feel comfort, you feel a sense of the great things in life, and the sunniness of the yellow makes you feel of sort of sunshine and delight. But above all, what I feel is the great glory of a still warm bun with cold clotted cream.
One of the great surprises about the saffron the Methodists use for their buns and cakes is that it isn't grown, as you might imagine, in an exotic land far away, but here in Cornwall, and from a most unexpected source.
Hello.
Hello, Rick.
I've been wanting to see this most of my life, actually.
Have you really? Well, this is good timing.
Saffron?
There you go.
Oh, you're going to give me a... Okay, fair enough.
Yep, come and have a look. Up this way.
Lovely smell.
I know, it's good, isn't it?
Oh.
This is farmer Brian Ayres. Here on the Roseland Peninsula, he's continuing a very Cornish tradition.
I think we'll probably make a start just over there.
Can you just show me what to do? I mean, you can do most of the cooking.
Thank you. Let's have a look at this one.
OK. So just tell me, what are these flowers?
Well, they're crocus. They're an autumn flowering crocus.
Latin?
Crocus sativus.
Right.
So you just kind of put your fingers like that to the stalk, and then I quickly push down like that, and it snaps the stem.
Oh, I heard it, yeah.
You do, you hear a lovely snapping sound, and just a quick action like that.
I see.
And it snaps.
Oh, yeah, I can feel it snap. That's... I'm expert immediately.
So this is the flower, this is the saffron flower.
Yeah.
This is the stigma,
Yeah.
which is the saffron.
It's the red bit that you keep, then?
Yes, the red bit is the stigma.
Yeah.
The yellow bit is the stamens, which have got pollen on them, as you can see.
Yeah.
They haven't actually got any use. So at the end of the day, once we've taken the stigma out,
Yeah.
that gets thrown away. And if there are any bees around on a warm day, they'll come and
Have the pollen.
munch over them, yeah.
I've always wanted to see saffron crocuses being picked because, this, to me, it's so exotic. The flavour, the smell. What's the history of saffron, particularly in Cornwall, then?
So it came to Cornwall being traded for copper and tin back in the 14th century.
So it goes back a long way.
A long way.
And then small pockets of saffron growers started.
I've got a bee in this one, I might leave him.
Yeah, small pockets of growers started up growing saffron, and they were all called croqueurs, or croakers.
What, saffron?
Saffron pickers. And do you know, since we started, we've counted every single flower.
What?
Yeah, every single flower.
Are you serious?
Has been recorded.
You're joking.
No, seriously.
What, is everybody counting then?
Yep.
I've got 2.
Every 100 would give you a click.
All right.
Since they started growing saffron in 2014, Brian and his wife Margaret have gathered over 250,000 flowers, which must be picked by hand to avoid damaging the fragile flower buds. Planted in July, they are harvested in autumn, when family and friends pitch in for 3 weeks of intense work.
When I first heard about saffron being grown in Cornwall, I would just thought the climate wasn't conducive. Don't you need lots of hot sun?
I mean, they like being baked in the sun in
Yeah.
the summer, but, you know, I've seen them around the world where they're covered in blankets of snow and everything, and they're fine. Anybody can grow it. You know,
What,
you can buy
grow-
some bulbs and you can grow them in window boxes or in flower pots, or you can grow them in the garden.
And there's no poisonous crocus that looks like it.
Well, this is the only crocus. Crocus sativus is the only one that you can eat. You cannot eat ordinary crocus, so, you know, make sure you get the right crocus.
It's a bit like mushrooms then.
A bit like mushrooms, yeah.
It's believed that saffron comes from Iran, but others think Greece or Mesopotamia. At a cost of £35 per gram, it's the world's most expensive spice by weight. Luckily, a little saffron goes a long way.
So what's so special about Cornish saffron then, as opposed to Iranian saffron, North
Well,
African
you haven't got
saffron?
the air miles for a start, which is a good thing. It creates employment in this country, and it's really great. The quality is amazing. We're really proud of it.
Yeah, it is good.
But
I think, dare I say it, just a tad more expensive than some of the imported stuff.
it is. We can't compete on price, I know that. But I think our quality is really good.
I mean, one thing that's clear to me, Brian, is it's not just a crop for you. You're a bit of a saffron nut, really, Brian.
Well, I do like saffron, it's
Yeah.
true. I mean, to be able to create dishes from Cornish ingredients, including the seasoning, like the saffron or whatever, it's just, like, amazing, isn't it? I think a lot of eating is about the romance of it all, isn't it?
I agree.
You know, about
Yeah.
the history of it, about the locality of it. Do you know, I think we finished this row, Rick.
Well, that seemed like if you could be talking all the time, you could get through this row in no time. I hardly noticed it.
It's all right, it's another 20 rows to do.
Oh, OK, fine.
After a long day of picking, it's time for the main event. With unbelievable patience and a steady hand any surgeon would be proud of, each individual stigma, about the size of a pin, is painstakingly teased from the flower. Brian and Margaret must remove the stigmas from 180 flowers to make just 1 gram of dried saffron. The flowers don't go to waste, as they contain a lot of pollen, so are left outside for the bees to feast on.
Just one final question. Who's that over there?
That's Pete.
He's dressed very well for a scarecrow.
Well, he is. He gets my best throwaway clothes every year, whether he wants them or not.
Join me next time as I continue my journey across the ancient land of Cornwall.
It's like Cape Canaveral.
Absolutely. This was the Victorian equivalent.
Wow, that is really quite special.
This is a Cornish bouillabaisse.
Oh. Land's End, it's sensational.
It is
isn't
wonderful. The end and yet the beginning.
Yes, indeed.